Hi there, everyone. I'm Ashley Bullington, and welcome in to the Campfire, our summer camp show where we introduce you to teams from around the greater Houston area. This week we're going into 10-5A Division II, and in this one we have a 7-team district with some great teams. Let's give you more information about them in our film session.
Of the 7 teams in 10-5A Division II, only 5 of them are from the Houston area. Let's start off with last year's district winner, the Huntsville Hornets. They coasted through the regular season at 9-0 and pushed that to 11-0 before losing to the eventual state runner-ups Crosby in overtime. Rodney Southern loses defensive studs Quaterian Riles and Ed Babino, who accounted for 36 combined sacks last year. But they still return newcomer of the year Calvin Simmons on that side of the ball. Offensively, running back Jalen McClain will be the trigger man in the backfield. Montgomery may give Huntsville a run for their money in 2021. They finished second in district last year and returned quarterback Brock Bolfing and running back Jalen Washington. Those two will be the backbone on offense, while Bolfing will try to find wide receiver Justin Herman as much as possible. The Bears lost to Huntsville by 2 touchdowns last year, but look for them to close the gap this year. Only in their 4th year, Montgomery Lake Creek has steadily improved each year. Last year, the Lions finished above 500 for the first time in school history and earned a playoff spot. Justin Freeney had a solid year at running back, and head coach Pat Kennedy had to like the play of his freshman wide receiver Sam Lee, who earned himself second-team All-District honors. Lamar Consolidated had a disappointing 2020 as they went winless on the season. In order to pick up a win or two this year, they'll need a big year from quarterback Dylan Garrett. And Fulshire went 5-5 last year, but only 1-5 in district. The Chargers have junior quarterback Parker Williams and junior wide receiver Jax Medica. That should be a pretty lethal combination in 2021.
Some amazing teams in this 10-5A Division II district, and those teams are made up of really phenomenal players. Let's introduce you to some and our players on the rise.
At Montgomery, the Bears will look to the coach's son, Brock Bolfing, to help challenge for a district title. As a junior, Bolfing threw for 2,500 yards and 23 touchdowns. Bolfing is not one to stray from the pocket, so when he drops back, look for him to be locked and loaded for a big gain down the field. As a junior at Lamar Consolidated, Dylan Garrett was named the district offensive newcomer of the year. The quarterback threw for 1,500 yards and 9 touchdowns for the Mustangs as they struggled through a winless season. Garrett averaged almost 200 yards per game through the air and threw for 391 yards against Humble. Look for him to help the Mustangs get a couple of wins this season. Jalen Washington could be the best running back in the district this year. The Montgomery senior ran for 1,500 yards and 18 touchdowns last year, including 200 yards and 3 scores in a playoff win over White House. The shifty back was a first-team All-District selection last year and has some mid-major offers on the table. Huntsville linebacker Calvin Simmons was a menace on defense for the Hornets. As a junior, Simmons had 60 tackles and 6.5 sacks for Huntsville. He was also named the district defensive newcomer of the year. Simmons is excellent at reading the play from the snap and gets to the quarterback quickly. On offense, Simmons also plays running back, so plan on seeing a lot of Calvin this season.
Some great players in 10-5A Division II, but these great players are led by amazing head coaches. And our producer, Ward Fasold, brings in John Bolfing, the head coach of Montgomery, for our Media Day segment.
All right, Media Day, and we are joined with Montgomery head coach John Bolfing. Coach, you guys had a great year last year. 8-4. Your losses were so close. I mean, you lost to a state semifinalist where you hung with Crosby until the very end. A tough loss to Marshall. Huntsville, you only lost by a couple scores. Talk about your season last year and maybe a little bit about this year, how you might be able to chase down Huntsville, who went undefeated last year in district.
Well, this year for us was a very satisfying year. You know, of course it was for a lot of people with everything we went through with all the COVID things and the quarantining and all, but it was very, very satisfying to the season that we did have. We'd come off our worst season ever the year before at 2-8. And so to bounce back and go 8-4 and beat White House in the first round of the playoffs, and then compete very well against Marshall, Fort Bend Marshall. It was very satisfying. It was a good season for us. We're very proud of our kids, and now of course off season's begun, and we're looking forward to the upcoming season. Traditionally Huntsville in our district is the team to beat. Obviously, they've been very good for many years. A&M Consolidated has been a team in our district that's traditionally a very good program. But I feel like our entire district is really going to be more competitive this year than even it was last year. I think all 7 teams in our district most of them will be better this year, I feel like. So I think it's going to be very competitive. It was competitive last year as well. There were a lot of good games in our district. But to beat Huntsville, to kind of knock them off the top, we're going to have to improve. They've got good players coming back. They've lost some key players, but the thing about them, they're always going to be outstanding defensively, and they play to their strengths, and they play great defensively, and they control the ball in offense. So we've got our work cut out for us.
Awesome, Coach. Hey, Coach, thanks for joining us, man. We can't wait to see Bear football this fall. Hopefully we have a regular season. We don't have to deal with what we had to deal with last year, but I appreciate you joining us and talking a little 10-5A Division II football.
Well, I appreciate you having me. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Coach Bolfing, thank you so much for joining us here on the Campfire, and good luck to you and your team in the 2021 season. We bring in Inside High School Sports Insider Matt Harris to talk with Ward Fasold in our district breakdown.
All right, we're joined again here by my man Matt Harris, Inside High School Sports Insider. We are talking 10-5A Division II. Last year that was Huntsville's district as they went through it undefeated and made a nice little playoff run there. But I think there's some teams that could give them some comp this year. What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, Huntsville had a great year last year, 11-1. But I think Montgomery had a great year as a team that caught my eye. The Bears went 8-4, and they returned quarterback Brock Bolfing and running back Jalen Washington, who we'll get to in a little bit. To add to that, Lake Creek went 6-5 last season, made its first playoff appearance in school history. And the Lions, I think it's an interesting case because that school opened in 2018. They went 2-8, and then 4-6 in 2019, and then 6-5 with their first playoff appearance last season. So I think it'll be super interesting to see if they can build on that in 2021, have a 4th straight year of improving on the previous season, but it's going to be tough without quarterback Ty Sexton, who graduated.
Talk a little bit about some players that we might want to keep an eye on in this district.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, Montgomery with an 8-4 year last season, second round of the playoffs, and they returned quarterback Brock Bolfing and running back Jalen Washington, who were both juniors last year. So they've got a good amount of varsity experience. Bolfing threw for over 2,500 yards and 23 touchdowns, and Washington ran for 1,519 touchdowns. And I think Montgomery could have a chance to improve on what was already a really good 8-4 season. Now, instead of going to round 2, maybe they're in round 3 and 4. All depends on that road there, because obviously you start running into your Marshalls and your Huntsvilles of the world, but they've got a solid foundation to build on.
Yeah, you talk about Brock Bolfing. It doesn't hurt that he's coach's son too. So they're probably talking about some special plays, at the dinner table as well.
Yeah, for sure.
I appreciate it, Matt. We're going to talk 11-5A Division II next week, and you have yourself a good week.
You too.
Guys, I'm going to call who I think is going to win this district. I think Lamar Consolidated is going to have a bounce-back season and take the district title in 10-5A Division II. That's all we have for this week's episode of The Campfire. Next week, we're going to be deep diving into 11-5A Division II. But until then, stay tuned to all of our social media channels. We have Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. That'll be bringing you content from 10-5A Division II all week long. Until next time, I'm Ashley Billington, and thank you for watching The Campfire.